That's actually good. All right. I am going to call the meeting to order this morning. We'd like to welcome everyone to a beautiful Thursday morning, June 18th. And as we approach Father's Day weekend, to all the dads out there, I want to wish a very happy Father's Day. This morning, our invocator will be Mark Campos.
Good morning. Heavenly Father, we are thankful for this day that you have given us, for its blessings, its opportunities, its challenges. May we appreciate and use each day that comes to us. We pray for strength and guidance for each day as it comes, for each day's duties, for each day's problems. May we be challenged to give our best always, and may we be assured of your presence with us. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. And without further ado, what I'm going to do is turn the meeting over to our Toastmaster of the day. But before I do that, are there any announcements that we have this morning?
Anybody catch the paper last week?
Yesterday, actually.
Yesterday, a couple days ago.
Or a couple days
Basically,
ago, yes.
before the meeting was over, I took a picture, sent it in. They put it right in just to get us some people. I don't know if we got any phone calls, but I'm hoping.
Yeah, that was a very nice article. Actually, I have the paper, and I will make a copy of that and post it for next week's meeting with that. And thank you for doing that, Margot. Also, this morning, Larry Eggert just sent me a message that he was looking for the link and he can't find it, so I will forward him the link. And I would like to welcome our guest this morning, David Jones. Welcome back to our meeting today.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Oh, it's a pleasure. And thanks for being here, and thanks for getting up, and we'll make sure that it's worth getting up for. I would like to turn the meeting at this time over to our Toastmaster of the day, Jen Zappla, and I will actually get rid of my video here, and I will send Larry a link. Our Toastmaster of the day, Jen.
Welcome, everybody. Thank you for letting me be your Toastmaster. This is actually my first time as Toastmaster on Zoom, and I'm pretty excited about it. Now, you may be wondering, I had center on the theme for the day as the elephant on Zoom, and I was thinking a lot about the week and what my theme should look like. So today, I want to share with you a theme about Juneteenth and about Black history, because I think that it's something that we've been dealing with racial tensions quite a lot in the country. And as a country, I think it's important to acknowledge those tensions and understand what our history is in order to move forward. So if you're anything like me, I am a little embarrassed to admit it, that I didn't know what Juneteenth was. I may have heard about it in the past, but I wasn't sure. And I had to Google it. And I'm very embarrassed about that, to be quite honest with you. But it is actually about the emancipation of slaves. Now, the Emancipation Proclamation was declared on January 1st of 1863, but it wasn't until June 19th of 1865 that federal troops in Galveston issued orders to free the slaves in Texas. And that was on June 19th, and it's celebrated across the country today. Almost every state recognizes Juneteenth as a holiday. So to start, I want to read from you a portion of the Emancipation Proclamation in remembrance of that day and some of the terrible history of our country. I do order and declare that all persons held as slaves within said designated states and parts of states are and henceforward shall be free. And upon this act, sincerely believed to be an act of justice warranted by the Constitution, and upon military necessity, I invoke the considerate judgment of mankind and the gracious favor of Almighty God. I'd like to give a toast to that proclamation today, that we can all be proud of where we come from when we acknowledge our faults and rise to change and improve ourselves for the better. Thank you. So I'm sorry to bring you such a heavy topic, but I think it's important that we address it. But without further ado, I'll move into the meeting today. And so I would like to introduce our word master, Alexis. Alexis, we can't hear you.
Sorry, I thought I had unmuted. Thank you, fellow Toastmasters and Madam Toastmaster. With everything that's going on, I thought that an appropriate word for today would be coalesce. C-O-A-L-E-S-C-E. It means to come together to form one mass or whole. So I was at work yesterday and I had a lot going on, and I worked a longer shift than usual. And I came home, and I have 2 teenagers that live at home with me. And well, one's 20 and one's 14. And I also have an 18-year-old that does not live with me, but she likes to come over and kind of break things apart and start some havoc. So when I got home from work yesterday, my job was to coalesce my family unit so that we can work together as a whole again. That's the word of the day.
Thank you, Alexis. Our master today is Nancy. Nancy, I see that you're here. Are you available?
I am here. I am here. All right. Today, my job is to listen for ahs, ums, ers, that sort of thing, and pregnant pauses so that you are aware of them to increase your speech impact. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Nancy. Our grammarian today is Carol Ann.
Today I will be watching for examples of good grammar and maybe not so good grammar, and maybe some other interesting phrases people use. Ms. Toastmaster.
Thank you, Carol Ann. Our quote master today is Sylvia.
Morning. I have a couple quotes this morning. And one is, in between goals, there is things called life that has to be lived and enjoyed. That one is anonymous. If not us, then who? If not now, then when? JFK, Senior. I alone cannot change the world, but I can cast a stone across the water to create many ripples. Mother Teresa.
Thank you, Sylvia. Our jester today is Len.
Morning, everyone. This is kind of a heavy subject, so I just kind of pivoted on this, and I'm going to tell you some elephant jokes. Everybody knows the most famous one, of course. How do you prevent an elephant from charging? You take away his credit card. How do you get an elephant up a tree? You plant an acorn, have the elephant stand on top of where you planted it, and wait 50 years. Why couldn't the 2 elephants go swimming together? Because they only had 1 pair of trunks. Why doesn't the elephant use a computer? Well, because it's afraid of the mouse. What is large, gray, and wears glass slippers? Cinder elephant. Why are elephants wrinkled? Have you ever tried to iron one? How do you make an elephant fly? Well, you start with a 3-foot zipper. As far as riding animals goes, horsebacks are great and crockbacks are terrible, of course, but elephants, well, that's a gray area. Why do elephants have such big ears? It doesn't matter, it's irrelevant. And the final one, applause here. I bought my friend an elephant for his room. He said, thanks. I said, don't mention it. Madam Toastmaster.
Thank you, Larry.
Len.
Len, I was preemptively about to welcome Larry as our timer. Thank you, Len.
Thank you, Madam Toastmaster. This morning, I have the privilege of being your timer. For table topics, our table topics at AM Lockport is 1.5 minutes. So you have to speak for at least 1.5 minutes. And at 1.5 minutes, you will get the yellow light. And at 2 minutes, or excuse me, at 1.5 minutes, you get the green light. At 2 minutes, you will get the yellow light. And then the infamous red light, which will mean time to stop, and that's at 2:30. I believe we have a 30-second buffer for the table topics.
You'll see the light at 2 minutes.
Pardon me?
You'll see the light at 2 minutes, but you have until 2:30 to speak.
Correct. And then for our speakers, if they are 5 to 7 minutes, at 5 minutes, you will see the green light. At 6 minutes, you will see the yellow light. And at 7 minutes, you will see the red light. For our evaluators, green you will receive at 2 minutes, yellow at 2:30, and 3 minutes you will receive the red light. That is time to wrap it up. Thank you to our Toastmaster of the day, and I will turn it back to you, Madam Toastmaster.
Thank you, Larry. Our gesture master today is Tracy.
Everyone. Today my job is to watch everybody's gestures, especially the speakers at the moment. But as Toastmasters, we all like to coalesce. So I'm also going to be watching all of the participants. And on Zoom meetings, we have a tendency to touch our face and to roll our eyes when somebody's speaking or something else that detracts, or what Phil's doing. Detracts from the speaker at hand. So I'm going to watch all of the speakers, but all of us as participants to make sure that we are good Zoom meeting participants.
Thank you, Tracy. Now I have Sylvia down as our quiz master as well as the quote master. So I don't know if she would like to relinquish that role to another person who doesn't have one, or if she intends to fill both.
If you don't have a volunteer, I could fill both.
Is there anyone that would like to volunteer, or shall we continue as is? Phil?
Phil Russell, good.
Phil, tell us what you're doing today.
What am I doing?
Quizmaster.
Oh, Quizmaster. I will I was preoccupied. I will try to listen attentively to all of our speakers, anyone that speaks, and come up with a couple of questions about what they were talking about. So I will be your Quizmaster, Madam Toastmaster.
Thank you. And our general evaluator today is Mokles.
Good morning, everyone. Madam Toastmaster of the day, fellow Toastmasters, and David Jones as our guest. The purpose of the general evaluator is to evaluate everything that takes place throughout the meeting, during the meeting. And I will try to report back at the end of the meeting, emphasizing on preparation, organization, delivery, enthusiasm, energy, observation, performance, all these to be coalesced into your stage or performance over the mic. At the end of the meeting, I'll give my short report. Thank you, Madam Toastmaster of the Day.
Thank you, Moklas. And I would also like to welcome a second guest that we had join us today, Elvis Lopez. So thank you for joining us today. We're glad to have you. How did you hear about us?
Well, pleasure to be here. I'm actually a member of Queen City Toastmasters, same as David Jones. I've heard about your club from first from David, but also Eric and Moklis have actually participated in our meetings a couple of times, and they speak wonders of your club. And I actually was interested in seeing and living the experience, and decided to join today.
Well, we're glad to have you here at 7 a.m. with us today. So welcome.
My pleasure.
All right, I would like to get into our meeting a little bit. And I understand it's 7 a.m., but I am going to bring you guys some heavy topics today, which may not be standard for a Toastmasters meeting. But I do believe that it's important for us to acknowledge and confront our history and learn from it. Because as they say, those who do not learn from it are doomed to repeat it. So I want to talk to you today about some of the things that have happened in the past within our country that are very large, magnitudinal events that I couldn't recall having learned about in my lifetime. So maybe you've all heard of these events, or maybe you haven't. The first one is the Elaine Massacre that occurred in Arkansas. It was 1919, and it was sparked by Black sharecroppers who were attending a union meeting. They were attempting to unionize due to low wages. They were attacked, and that event turned into a 2-day event in which several hundred people, mainly Black, were killed. No one was ever convicted except for some of the Black members of that community whose homes and families were destroyed as a result. This was not something that I had heard of, and it's something that is not as well known as some of the other historical events in our country. The Tulsa Race Massacre happened a couple of years later in 1921 in an affluent Black community. A Black man was accused of assaulting a white woman, and the city then conspired with an outraged white mob. They burned 35 blocks of that community. As many as 300 people were killed. No one was ever convicted or sent to prison for the crimes that were committed. In the US, as you know, African American men were granted the right to vote in 1870 with the 15th Amendment. Now, it wasn't until 1920 that women were granted the vote, but that's a topic for another day. I know you're going to look forward to the next time I'm Toastmaster. And with the 24th Amendment, which didn't occur until 1964, poll taxes were outlawed, which means even though it had been nearly 100 years, voting was still being suppressed in a very real way. And although it may still be today, maybe we need another amendment to the Constitution. It brought us one step closer to an equal and just country. And I do hope that we'll get there. Now I'd like to turn it over to our table topics master today, Mike Licata.
Good morning, Madam Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, and our guests this morning. Jen, I think it's a great topic. You've clearly done a lot of research. Bear in mind that I'm probably going to start to steer the meeting in another direction because I went with your original theme this morning. And I will just remind our Table Topics participants that it is 1.5 to 2 minutes with a 15-second buffer, and that you have to use the word coalesce this morning. Now, Zoom is provided a lot of great opportunities to connect with different people around the globe, and I think Toastmasters is a great platform to do that. So I will start with one of our guests this morning, David Jones. What have you learned from Zoom? What's one of your biggest takeaways through your many experiences running Toastmasters meetings, joining Toastmasters meetings, and just your overall experience with the app? David Jones.
Thank you, Mr. Table Topics Master. Greetings, fellow Toastmasters and guests. We're all Toastmasters, whether we're in North Carolina or New York, so we coalesce together to have these meetings. For me, it has been an opportunity to participate more in Toastmasters on Zoom. It's a lot, you can feel a lot braver since you're in the privacy of your own home. Probably half of the people on this meeting don't even have pants on, which makes it even easier to talk to others. But for me, I've been able to do every single role, which I would have never done before. At the regular Toastmasters, I've been the Toastmaster of the day, I think 5 times. And I can remember being at meetings where I would be doing roles like timer or ballot counter, and I'd look at the Toastmaster and I'd say, I will never ever do that role. It's just too big and intimidating. But again, now that I've done it 5 times, it's a lot easier. And when we go back to the regular meetings, I'll still be nervous and a little bit scared, but at least I'll know how to do it. I'll have the information on how to conduct these various roles. So it's been a really great opportunity to be on Zoom and learn all the different roles and be able to participate, and also to be able to come to different meetings. I've gone to Tennessee meetings and now in New York meetings, and just see how different clubs do it, which without Zoom, we would have never been able to do. And I believe that that's really been a big part of Zoom. I'm part of some networking groups, and those also allow me to talk and participate. And I think just overall, Zoom has helped me with my public speaking way beyond what I would have been able to do. Back to you, Mr. Table Topics Master.
Thank you, David. Now, a lot of business professionals have had to adjust to life digitally, and Zoom definitely allowed that. So I will now ask Margot Sue Bittner how Zoom has helped her business as a small business owner, how Zoom has helped her experience that, her experience through Zoom, and how it's changed. And please remind everyone to use the word coalesce. Margot.
Thank you, Mike. Yeah, today is payday too. I'll remind you about that. But thanks for calling on me. So do I coalesce with other people on Zoom through the business? Well, the Wine Trail used to meet twice a month, once for the marketing meeting and once for a general meeting. We've been meeting once a week, right, Kate? Every Friday morning, we have a marketing meeting to try to keep things moving, keep things going. But more than my experience with Zoom during this time is my husband's experience with Zoom. Jim actually has been running back and forth to Albany for meetings. He's been running to Syracuse for meetings, and all of a sudden, everything is by Zoom. So he ends up calling up the number and not traveling. So he actually can run the farm quite a bit more than he normally would. Because if you go to Albany for a meeting, he would literally leave at 4 o'clock in the morning, go to Albany, have his meeting, and drive home in one day. Yes, I know my parents live there, but the idea of staying overnight this time of year doesn't thrill him. So that would be more of his experience. And I'm trying to find Larry on my screen. There he is. So I can finally know what my time is. But his experience is more. The other thing we've had is David is part of Lead New York. You remember he came and with our help, he got into that program. They've been having all kinds of workshops. They've been doing farm tours. So instead of him driving up to Lake Placid, going down to New York City, going to Binghamton, the 18 members of the class get together more often by Zoom. So that's been the experience on the farm and at the winery. Thank you, Mike.
Thank you, Margo. Finally, Zoom can be used as an outreach platform as well. So it is important that people stay connected, whether it be physical distance, but I think that Zoom has also allowed different new ways to connect with people. So I will now invite the Toastmaster Mom of the Club, Jackie Kenny. What ways have you been able to connect with people, and how has your Zoom experience been these past couple of months?
Well, thank you, Mike, for the opportunity to speak this morning. I'm finding that Zoom is quite an amazing platform. Just looking at all of your faces here this morning and listening to everyone speak, even though we're not together physically, it's challenging for everyone, but I really admire those who have stepped up and moved us forward as a club, and also the different ways that people have found to enhance their experience speaking online. As far as other uses for Zoom go, I've enjoyed some Zoom meetings with my family because my oldest daughter and grandson and son-in-law live in Cambridge, Massachusetts. So we have Zoomed quite a few times and had some interesting chats. I also watched my grandson's 8th grade graduation ceremony on Zoom on Tuesday this week. So that was fun. I would much rather have been there in person, but sometimes you can't. It's quite interesting to me that so many of our members have been coalescing with members of other clubs and getting involved in what different clubs are doing, the way that they conduct their meetings. Over the years, some of our members have done that in person, but being able to do it, Zoom into Singapore or some other faraway land for a meeting, that's an amazing opportunity to get to know some new people and understand more about Toastmasters. You can never learn enough. Thank you, Mr. Table Topics Master.
Thank you, Jackie. And now I will go to our timer this morning. Larry, how did everyone do on time?
Larry, we can't hear you.
Moot.
They must have.
Len, are you pranking him?
Yeah.
What's happening here?
No, I
There he
can't
goes.
hear him either. There he goes.
Len muted me.
No, I did not.
Please.
Thanks, Len. All right, this morning, my report, our 3 table topics. David Jones, 1 minute, 42 seconds. Margot, 1 minute, 37 seconds. And Jackie, 2 minutes and 1 second, all 3 qualified.
Thank you, Larry. And I will go to Alexis now. How did Coalesce do?
Okay, so far this morning, Tracy's used it, Muckless has used it, Mike Licata used it 3 times, and Margot and Jackie. If anybody else did, I missed it, I'm sorry.
I think David used it as well, right?
Exactly, David
Okay.
used it too.
Okay. So all 3 qualify on time and they use the word. So now I will turn it back over to our Toastmaster.
All right, thank you. So as you're voting, I'd like to share a little bit more about our history in the country. Another event that happened more contemporarily, and that was in 1985. So within my lifetime, and that's the Philadelphia bombing. It's not something that I recall hearing about. I was pretty young at the time, so it's not surprising that I don't remember it happening. But during that event, what started as an attempted eviction quickly escalated, and the city of Philadelphia decided, in order to resolve that situation, to bomb a residential neighborhood. As part of that, 11 people died in the fire that occurred as a result of that bomb. And the fire was allowed to burn by the city, who was standing by, resulting in the destruction of 61 homes. Now, what's surprising to me isn't so much that an event like that could happen in the United States, because I know there are other events that have happened, such as Ruby Ridge or Waco, and I won't point out some of the obvious differences. But the thing is, I know about those events and we talk about them. There are movies that are made about them, and they're names that most of us know and remember, regardless of what your view is on what took place. So it's surprising to me that I could not know about an event like this. And I wanted to make sure that all of you were aware of it. Because in the words of Martin Luther King, the ultimate tragedy is not the brutality of the bad people, but the silence of the good people. And Toastmasters is an opportunity for us to share our words, which is what I hope to do with you throughout the meeting today. One other thing that I would like to share, and you may have seen this in the news recently, is that lynching is not a federal crime in this country. Now, if you've read the news lately, you may see, there's this debate about the wording. And if you actually think that's true, then I'd like to inform you a little bit more clearly that since 1918, over 200 bills have been put forward. Tampering with mail is a federal offense in this country, but lynching isn't. If you think it's the wording or you think it's for lack of trying, then I'm sorry to tell you that you're sadly misinformed. Now I'd like to get into our speaking portion of the meeting today. And I'll start by introducing our first evaluator, Larry Eggert.
Morning, Madam Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters. Let me just scroll to another screen here. Okay. Marty is giving us a speech today on it's a technical briefing. It's project 1 in one of the manuals. I'm not sure which one this is. His objectives are to use a systematic approach to present or organize technical specialized material into a concise presentation and tailor the presentation to the audience needs, interests, and knowledge levels. And eventually to provide and explain facts that the audience can too much caffeine, quickly grasp and apply. His time, Madam Timer, is 8 to 10 minutes, and you have his topic.
Yes, I do. Marty, this is where Tops Market stands. This is where Tops Market stands. Marty Johnson.
Thank you, Madam Toastmaster. Fellow Toastmasters, welcome guests. Nice to see everyone this morning. This morning, you are my audience. You are my fellow workers and fellow employees at Tops Markets on South Transit Road. And I've been called to give this special executive briefing to you amidst all the concerns and questions we've been receiving regarding the use of face coverings in our stores and all the customer comments and phone calls we've been receiving. I want to bring everyone up to date this morning with this briefing. This is where Tops Markets currently stands with the use of face coverings in the store. And many of you, my fellow employees, have seen signs in the break room, in the front of the store, saying, in essence, in order to comply with the executive mandate, all employees, all people that enter our store, including you and me, should wear a face covering if you can't keep a social distance, if you can medically tolerate a face covering. Many of you have gotten used to this, masking procedure every day. I know I have, and it is somewhat cumbersome, if you will, and getting used to breathing and having things cover your face and getting lint in your mouth. However, for the health and safety of our other associates and our customers, we have to go along with the executive mandate. In addition, I want to remind you all to make sure you're getting your temperatures checked before you start your shift each day. Some of you have been coming up to me during your shift and asking me, what if a customer is not wearing a face covering? Well, only the store manager can approach a customer and ask them why they're not masked. Usually, the customers that aren't masked, in my experience, and some of the other managers that I'm working with recently, we found that the customers that aren't masked are usually in and out, and they're not lingering in the store. They either forgot the mask or they're just being belligerent, if you will. However, they are a customer, they are in our store. The hope is that they would wear a face covering. The customers that are lingering in the store manager, let it be known that the store manager only is the only one that is allowed to approach this person. Excuse me. And what we've been doing as management at this Lockport Tops, we've been, in a friendly manner, approaching the customer, introducing ourselves, letting them know that for the health and the safety of all customers, we appreciate them considering wear a face covering if they can medically tolerate a face covering. We can ask them that question, plain and simple. How come you're not wearing a face covering? And if they say they can't medically tolerate it, we let it go. If they say they're just being belligerent, if you will, then we can say, well, we would hope for the safety and well-being of you and me and for our other customers, we'd appreciate you complying with the executive mandate. Most recently, an associate asked me, can we deny a customer service at one of our service counters? And the answer, plain and simple, is no. I had this experience the other evening at the deli counter. Matter of fact, a customer was denied actually by a clerk who now knows and understands. And I wish I would have given this briefing last week so this person would have known. But however, he shouldn't have said no. He should have called the manager on duty over and let the manager on duty decide how we wanted to proceed with the customer. What the clerk did do, he did call me over to the counter. I actually recognized the customer. And even if I didn't recognize the customer as a friend or someone I've known for half my life, I still would have approached him and tried to service him. And I realized the guy, he wasn't giving me a hassle. I put a pair of gloves on. I served what he wanted. He was more than a safe distance away, probably 25 feet away. I took care of him. He said, thank you. He goes, I'm sorry. And he literally bolted out of the store after I served him. And if I were to do it again, I probably would have asked him the question. I didn't in that instance, but if it comes up again, I will definitely do as I just told you. When you call the store manager over, the manager on duty to ask the customer the question, why aren't they wearing a face covering? Can they medically tolerate the face covering? that was a lesson for me to be learned. We're learning, even as the management team here at TOPS, we're still learning. And one thing I wanted to share, some of you and the newer employees that are one of our co-founders, who's now deceased, Paul Perna Sr., Paul's motto was always, take the complaining customer aside. And if you think about it, if you lash out at someone, what are they going to do in today's day and age? What are they going to do? You don't know. We don't know how someone's going to react. We don't know what medication they're on. We don't know what they have in their purse, what they have in their coat. What are you in a harmful situation? Is a dangerous instrument going to be pulled out on you? You know, hope to God not. However, I can't stress enough the importance of taking heed to what Paul Perna said years ago. He said, take the complaining customer aside. And as I had previously mentioned, in doing that, excuse me, in asking the customer, you know, the question, finding out what is the reason why they don't have the face covering. A simple question, what is the reason? And if they have a reason that they can't medically tolerate it, well, then I can serve them. And if they're just being belligerent and they're just trying to go against the procedures and the policies, you know, the store management has the right to do that, to deny them. As Governor Mario Cuomo said on May 28th, quote, we are giving the store owner the right to say, if you're not wearing a mask, you can't come in. And that would be the very last thing that TOPS Markets would post on their door. And from a management standpoint, from being at that store for almost 20 years, I can tell you that's the very last thing that you would see on our door, because we're there to serve the customer. And Cuomo goes on to say, quote, the store owner has the right to protect the other people in the store. Yes, I definitely agree with that. However, I don't think you'll see a bold and brazen sign at the front of the store at 5827 South Transit Road that'll say, if you're not wearing a mask, you can't come in. So the hope is, fellow employees, that the customers realize the importance to comply with this executive mandate. And if they can medically tolerate a mask, to definitely wear any type of masks. The masks are, you can get them almost anywhere you look. There's either mask to satisfy the need to enter a retail establishment today. Fellow employees, best of health to you, and thanks for taking the time out today to listen to our briefing. Have a good day. Thank you.
Thank you, Marty. Before I introduce our next evaluator, I want to just take a moment because I believe we are missing our third evaluator. I was hoping that he would join us a little late, and it doesn't look like he has. So do I have a volunteer to be our third evaluator today? David. Great. David, you will be evaluating Gerald, so the two of you can chat. In the meantime, I will introduce Samir, our second evaluator today, evaluating Beth.
Hi, today's speech is the evaluation and feedback speech. It's titled Memories. The purpose of this project is for the member to present a speech on any topic and receive feedback, and then apply that feedback to a second speech. So I will be evaluating Beth today as she talks about memories.
Thank you. Beth and memories.
Thank you, Madam Toastmaster. Welcome and good morning to everyone. Our unique memories, they affect our lives in many ways. In truth, they coalesce into making us the person that we are. I have a question for all of you. How many of you had a dream growing up of falling off something? A bridge, a ladder, whatever. I have read that most of us have had those kinds of dreams. I certainly did. I fell off bridges often. I've never fallen off a bridge, but I did in my dreams. So but it did affect me as I've gotten older. If I even see a picture of someone scaling a mountain, I get slightly queasy, I have to admit. My maximum ladder height is 8 feet. If I try to go up higher than that, which I did quite a few years ago, my leg was not moving to go up any farther. Came back down, said, nope, can't do that at all. Some people might call me paranoid. Others might say I am just being cautious. Either way, it affected my ability to go on tall things. My memories of some of my older relatives range from the slightly strange to wonderful to embarrassing. Slightly strange, you ask? Yes, I cannot think of my great-grandmother without thinking of mothballs. She apparently used mothballs to keep the moths out of her clothes. Very common in those days, but they totally smelled awful. She was a hugger, so she wanted to hug everyone. So we were all very aware of this strong mothball odor. One of my cherished memories is with my Aunt Barb and Uncle Bill. I visited them quite often. One of the memories I have that I love is traveling back and forth to Rochester with them. About halfway through the journey, my two cousins and then my aunt would fall asleep. My Uncle Bill and I would then turn the radio on and sing along to the songs from the 50s and 60s. I know most of the words still and love the music. That truly one of my cherished memories. A few years ago, Phil and I were invited to go with their family to Myrtle Beach. We went to several of the theaters there and saw some of the 50s, 60s performers. I'm quite sure that Aunt Barb, Uncle Bill, and I were the ones who loved that the most of all of the family with us. That is such a strong, positive memory for me. My Uncle Bill is still one of my favorite, most loved males. Love visiting them. However, one of my most embarrassing memories, is when I went on another visit to their home and I got sick. I got the flu. I don't know about you, but to me, getting sick away from home has to be the worst possible feeling. They still love me. I don't know why, because that was terrible. It wasn't the only time I got sick away from home. I did it at a friend's house. To this day, I cannot eat a hot dog with ketchup on it because I got sick on a hot dog with ketchup on it. Through many family discussions, I've realized that people in the same family don't often have the same memories. I think I grew up many years thinking, well, we all grew up together. We have the exact same memories, but we don't have the exact same memories. For example, my mother told me once that she had a very clear memory of her grandfather coming to their house to beat up her father. I can't even imagine how traumatic that was for her and the memories that stuck with her of her grandfather. Years later, I had an opportunity to talk to one of her younger sisters, my aunt, about their grandfather. Her memories of their grandfather were totally different. She remembered the man as being this great storyteller, very loving, one of her favorite people. The difference between those two memories just totally amazed me. And I began thinking of how different our memories are in this same family. My youngest brother, who's 6 years younger than I, we've talked a number of times about this, that we just don't have the same memories. My brother David, on the other hand, called me just recently to talk about some of our wonderful vacations we took to in Canada. Had some quirky little things. I didn't like the leeches in the lake. I didn't like my cousin managing to get us back to the cottage quickly by telling us that the bear was coming, was right on our heels. He got us back quickly, believe me. But all those memories make me who I am today. They make me love my family. I love all those memories coalescing together for me, and I love being together with my relatives still. I hope the same for all of you. Thank you, Madam Toastmaster.
Thank you, Beth. Our third and final evaluator for today will be David evaluating Gerald Stevens. David, unmute yourself.
Good morning, Madam Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, and our guest from the sunny South. It's great to ride in here and find out that I'm going to evaluate Dr. Gerald Stevens, even as I sit here. All his past speeches, which were much more than speeches, they're adventures, are coalescing in my brain. I can hear the music from Indiana Jones. It's quite amazing. It's coming up. I wonder if he's put on his hat and secured his whip to his belt and checked his pistol. But he's going to be doing an icebreaker. And after 38 years, I'm pretty sure I can handle this, Madam Toastmaster. Thank you so much.
Thank you, David. Dr. Stevens with The Journey. The Journey, Dr. Stevens.
I guessed correctly.
Good morning, fellow Toastmasters and our guests. Who wants to go on a journey today? Show of hands, please. I see a few hands raised. Very nice. Well, we are going to go on a journey today. It's not my typical journey. It's a little about my journey in life. Where did I come from? What did I do? We have a lot of new Toastmasters that appear on Zoom. We have guests today, and they don't necessarily know us all. And this is probably the 5th or 6th time I've done a icebreaker, and it's a pleasure to meet people and introduce myself. So I'm going to do that today. So my life started off in the town of Niagara. We have a couple people from Niagara Falls, I know, in our club, and I lived on Ishwood Drive, for those of you who know the town of Niagara. A couple blocks down from Military Road School. Yes, I used to walk to school. It was only 2 blocks. Yes, there was snow. When I tell the story to my kids, of course, it's much longer and much worse. So I did do that. That was fun. In my neighborhood, we had quite a few kids, so I get to play with them and play all kinds of neighborhoods, football and sports and baseball. We had a woods nearby, so I was making forts as a kid. I was 1 door down from Gills Creek, if you know where that is. I'd go in there and play with the crawfish, and had a good old life growing up for sure. I had 4 sisters. I was middle child. My wife likes to say I'm well trained. I am relatively clean, and always put the toilet seat down. So that was a deciding factor in our marriage. Said he's a keeper. Not a lot of guys don't do that. As a child, I also was in Scouts. So I learned goal setting in Scouts, a little bit of leadership, and how to be a part of a team. So I really enjoyed that. So that was fun. And after I finished high school at Niagara Wheatfield, I went off to college, University of California, for a great adventure. The 2 things that stood out there for me in regards to life in California were the outdoor club. So a group where they basically gave us money to go camp and hike. So I got to introduce myself to some national parks, which I still enjoy doing nowadays. And I got to go a year abroad in England. I wasn't the first choice, but I was ready for the opportunity when it came up as first alternate. And that was awesome. Got to go dancing 3 times a week, learned how to do that. And pub life was amazing, and got to see a bunch of different countries traveling, and over the years, 33 so far. So I have been keeping that going. So after college, I went in the Army. And what I learned in the Army was a little bit of discipline and a little bit of efficiency and laser focus. My wife says there's no relax. My son says the same thing. So nowadays, I'm always doing something all the time. So that's good and bad. But that's kind of how I roll. That kind of led to my current job after a few false starts. As a chiropractor, I teach as a clinician. I get to coalesce all my different skills in regards to leadership in the profession. Use my Toastmaster skills in teaching. I get to do all kinds of different interactive, fun classes with them. I enjoy doing that for sure. After I finished chiropractic college, adopted 4 kids all at once, instant family, just like the movie. God knows where they'd be today. They range from 12 to 6 years old. And the kids are doing great. They're all working, contributing to society, raising kids. I got 3 grandkids now. So cute. Whenever we get to see them, it's just little things like going on a hike or a little walk somewhere. And they're always ready for a great adventure with grandma and grandpa. So it's good times. So it doesn't have to be a big thing. You just go with them and give them a little ice cream and they are pleased as punch. Spoil them and leave, right? And that's the goal. So I enjoy that for sure. At this point in my life, the journey is still definitely going, and I'm at the top of the hill, I like to say, because I'm 50 now, and I'm looking down on the view of the other side of the hill. The goal is always to get up to 100 in my mind, and I like what I see, and I'm going to enjoy as much as I can of this life and continue with Toastmasters and share a few of those fun journeys with you. Madam Toastmaster.
Thank you. I just want to remind everyone that if you want to take a minute to write comments to all of our speakers, I know that they would greatly appreciate that feedback. Now, can I also get a timers report, Larry?
Yes, you may, Madam Toastmaster. Today, our 3 speakers: Marty, 9 minutes and 21 seconds, Beth, 5 minutes and 51 seconds, and Dr. Gerald, 4 minutes, 59 seconds. All 3 speakers qualified.
Great, then we'll see
Madam
that
Toastmaster.
poll in just a moment. I'm sure Larry will be launching that for us, so vote for best speaker today. I want to thank all of you for letting me share all of the deep and heavy things that I've shared with you today. I want to let you know that I was actually inspired to do this by some of the events both in my place of employment as well as my conversations that I'd had throughout the week with different people. In order to combat racism, I think that the first step is acknowledging our part in it. Even those of us who feel that we're in no way taking part in it do in ways that maybe we're unaware. So just acknowledging, educating ourselves, and understanding what's taking place around us, I think is important. I'll probably share some links with you after this meeting with a list of different resources that you can use, whether it's like understanding some of the disturbing statistics or just being aware of the history of the events that have taken place, reading about the experiences of others. I know in Beth's speech, she talked about people having 2 very different memories and understandings of the same person. And I think that draws into what we as individuals experience different events throughout our lifetimes that are not the same as some of our fellow citizens. Now we'll begin our evaluation portion of the meeting today, and we'll start with our first evaluator, Larry.
Thank you, Madam Toastmaster. Again, good morning, fellow Toastmasters. I have the privilege today of evaluating Marty. And his job today was to give us an executive brief. And an executive brief is a pretty important, at least I think, a pretty important part of leadership. It's an opportunity to sell an idea, to have people coalesce around a certain ideal, in this case, wearing face masks. Now, you would think initially that any other time before the COVID problem that we're having, you would think use of face masks, oh my God, this is going to be a horrible briefing. But I think now it's morphed into this is a pretty important part of a job anywhere, not only in marketing, but anywhere really. And I think Marty did a great job with it. He started out by introducing what the topic was going to be. And the way he did it, I thought was really good. He talked to the employees about looking at the signage, just to show them where the signs are, to let them know kind of what the company policy is about how to wear masks, why to wear masks, temperature checks, that kind of thing. I like the way as he went through his presentation, he anticipated questions and answered them as he went along. I think that's important too. It shows a high level of intelligence of what's going on and a knowledge of everything going on, especially with the staff. He was positive. He smiled. The one thing probably the best thing is he didn't dive into the minutia too much. Now, I don't know if you have ever been to one of these executive briefings or these meetings where sometimes an executive will just go on and on and on about the little tiny things. And Marty didn't do that. He hit the high points, the topics that were important. And I think he laid out the company's vision too. If you listen to him talk, he talked about what's the most important thing. And it coalesced around the one idea, and that's the customer. And he gave the employees tools on how to deal with any problems that they might come across. And overall, I thought it was a very, very good speech. Now, what could he do to improve? In this setting, probably nothing really. I guess the only thing I would think of, because I've been to a few Zoom meetings where people use PowerPoints, and that might break it up a little bit more as opposed to just watching somebody talk. And obviously, if he was in front of people, the best way to do this would be moving around and doing other things physically that would keep people interested. But I'll tell you that the biggest grade I thought, Marty, was the fact that I couldn't believe it was almost 10 minutes long. It went by that fast, and it was so interesting that I really enjoyed the overall briefing, and I'm sure the staff would too. And I will tell you just in closing that the people at TOPS are lucky to have you as a leader because you do a great job. Madam Toastmaster.
Thank you, Larry. Our second evaluator today, evaluating Beth, is Samir.
Hi, everybody. Beth, today your speech was really excellent. It started very strong. I imagine perhaps you've had some prior public speaking experience, or at least speaking in front of a group, maybe as a teacher. I think you started strong with a good question for the audience. You had really excellent gestures. Your hands were in frame, which I'm failing at now, but it all coalesced into a really strong speech, and your eye contact was excellent. The content was amazing. I thought it was really interesting to see how different perspectives on the same event or person can both be right and reflect each person's individual experience, which is, of course, something that comes up more frequently as all of us interact with more people in our lives. I think another element that you could have maybe worked on was the beginning had a little bit of pacing. I thought maybe you were nervous. I think your hand gestures did somewhat reflect that, but it also felt like the beginning was you were maybe rushing through because you weren't sure about having time at the end. So I think that maybe the sort of dynamism and enthusiasm that you had overall in your speech at the middle and end could have come through a little bit more clearly, or at least a little more well rehearsed in the first minute or two of it. I think that everything else was excellent. Again, the content was really good. Your pauses were good. That was maybe something else you could also work on. But overall, I think it was a really excellent speech that did not have very many problems with it. So I don't have much to actually constructively evaluate you on. But I think that for your next one, maybe just planning a little more or practicing the intro would be a strong way to improve for your next step of this project. Thanks.
Thank you, Samir. And our third and final evaluator today is David, evaluating Dr.
Good morning, Madam Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, and our guests, especially Dr. Jerry. Jerry, I want to salute you right off the bat for taking your whip and roping in the audience. That was an excellent job. Used key phrases that brought us in. They got our attention. And that's a good way to start a speech. And you're always very strong on that, and today was no exception. You had excellent words this morning that painted a picture both with oils or watercolors or pastels, but you also used enough verbiage that you actually were cinematic this morning. But I don't know if that's because I'm used to your speeches, but I'm going to give you the benefit of the doubt, and I did see a movie, so I enjoyed that thoroughly. Where can you improve, you ask? Well, the first note I made was 50, big deal. I'd kill to be 50. But perhaps when you give a speech like this, focus on a few points, not so many points. You really covered your life from A to Z, which was good. But I would have liked to see more focus. But on the other hand, for our guests from the Carolinas, it was a good thing that you did the broadcast, that you covered so many points so they could get to know you. And that's an aspect that is Zoom related, because you have to coalesce your Zoomers, and we have the benefit of guests that are from all over the world, and in this case, North Carolina. So it was good to cover that base. Now this is going to take a lot of nerve because I am sitting, but Dr. Jerry, you should have stood up. Because when you remain seated, that limited your gestures. We always like to use our gestures in the morning, even though we got these little tiny squares. So I'm sitting because I'm afraid to touch anything, because if I had run up my tripod to eye level, I'm sure I would have knocked myself out of the meeting. So I'm a bit challenged from that regard. But I love it when it's Jerry's turn to speak. We're always going to be entertained. Thank you, Dr. Dr. Stevens. Thank you so much. Madam Toastmaster.
Thank you, David. May I get a timer's report? Larry, that's you.
Yes, it is. I'm just clicking between 4 different screens here. Madam Toastmaster, our timer for our evaluators, Larry Egger, 2 minutes and 52 seconds. Samir, 2 minutes and 1 second. And Dave Licata, 3:02. All qualify.
Thank you. So go ahead and vote for your best evaluator when you see that poll pop up. Now I want you to remember tomorrow, if you've never thought about it or celebrated it before, it is Juneteenth. So take some time and educate yourself about some of the things in this country. And before I turn it over to our general evaluator, I'd like to share a quote mashup with you. So this comes from several different people, and I'll be happy to share that with you in my notes that I send around later. I want to be remembered as someone who used herself and anything she could touch to work for justice and freedom. Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. I am no longer accepting the things I cannot change. I am changing the things I cannot accept. Nothing can be changed until it is faced. There is no time for despair, no place for self-pity, no need for silence. We speak. That is how civilizations heal. Now I would like to turn it over to our general evaluator, Moklis.
What a perfect transition. I'm also wearing my general evaluator hat, just so that I'm changing my role. First one to give us a report is Alexis on the word of the day. What an excellent choice. Go ahead, Alexis.
The word of the day did really good. It has been used 19 times.
Wow. Very good. And it's a good word for the current times. We need to come together to both heal and also make positive change to our society. Excellent word. Next reporter would be Gesture Master, Tracy Farrell.
Thank you, Muplis. I have to start off. You've done a wonderful job today with your props, starting off with your elephant and then changing your hats. Kind of added to the meeting, make it a lot more fun. I also noticed one of the things you did that was interesting to me, and it's something I'm going to have to learn more about, is when you turned off your camera, you were still able to wave and give a thumbs up to the speakers, letting us know you're really still there, you're still listening to our speeches. So I thought that was wonderful too. Just a reminder to our speakers, when Zoom, we kind of get lazy when we're doing our speeches, and I know I'm guilty of it too, is we're still reading from our notes, and then you can tell when you're reading from your notes, and it's kind of nice when we're a speaker and we're trying to make a point. We are on camera and we need to speak to our audience and make that eye contact and connect with our audience. So that's something, it's difficult. It's a different format than our in-person meetings, but it's something that we need to all learn as we're on Zoom meetings. I thought Beth did a great job. She actually stood during her speech, and she had very natural gestures, and she wasn't, in the past I've seen people standing during their speech, but the camera was too far away. This was the perfect distance. It didn't distract and make her look too small or anything. I thought it was a good distance. And Gerald, you also did an excellent job just speaking to the audience during your speech. And it was interesting that you were able to get audience participation. We all waved our hands when you started off your speech. Once again, David, in great broadcasting style, you did your evaluation and you did an excellent job of presenting the evaluation. Larry was also sitting very still, speaking to it. The only thing, Larry, is you're clasping your hand. I'll show it over here. You're clasping your hands a little bit. I don't know. It didn't distract from the speech, but I did notice you were clasping your hands a lot. Everybody else was really natural. Just for everybody participating, when you leave the meetings, probably it's proper etiquette to turn off your camera. And we should also realize when we're sitting here, everybody can see you scratching your face and your head. So just be mindful when you're on Zoom meetings. We actually did a really good job today, though. I didn't see a lot of that. So that's my report.
Thank you so much, Madam Grammarian and Gesture Master. I believe your comments are very helpful to our fellow members and guests. It's important to understand the Zoom environment is different than physical and how to make sure. And we come to Toastmasters for improvement. Your suggestions were great. Larry, do you have any other on timer? Any timing?
All reports have been turned in for timer.
Okay, thank you. Then my next one would be our counter, right?
I am here.
Nancy Perry, sorry.
No problem. I was the winner with 16 today. Was a 9. I didn't hear very many so's until Gerald and David wanted to share many of them. Gerald, you had 8. Dave, you had 5. There were a few stray so's in other people's speeches. or speaking time opportunities, and there were 4 appropriate so's. Marty, you shared 5 you knows with us. Try to watch the you knows because I think those are distracting as well. Otherwise, we did not too bad of a job, especially for Zoom. I think it's more difficult. Thank you.
Thank you, Master Nancy Ferry. Another great job. Every time we get feedback, we both recognize and realize in our mind how to overcome these transitional word or unnecessary filler. I'm kind of new as a general evaluator, so I'm kind of a little nervous. Do I go to the quiz master or do I go to my report, Toastmaster of the day?
Do we do grammarian?
No.
We did not do grammarian
did
yet.
not do the grammarian. Let's go to the grammarian, please.
Okay,
And that's Carol and
yeah, we everyone did very well. I didn't notice a lot of grammatical errors. As was already mentioned, there were some and you know fillers. I like Jen's word magnitudinal, and Beth used the correct grammar when she said one of her siblings was younger than I, because a lot of times we'll say me. Gerald, I think, said a icebreaker instead of an icebreaker. And there were a few kind of. And Shamir, I noticed, said fur instead of for, but generally we did well. Thank you.
thank you so much, grammarian master Carol. So what's my next step? Quiz or report?
Report.
Okay. I hope my report will be short and sweet. Everybody did very well. The meeting, as always, starts on time. We have great Toastmasters in this club, and volunteers usually vie for a vacant role, so there has never been a problem. Invocation by Mark Campos was great. I mean, I always admire Mark speaking because he comes with such rich skills, language, content, and delivery. I loved it. Word of the day, Alexis did a great job of bringing a word that is fantastic. Master, grammarian, quote, gesture, jokes were great. Larry did great job with timing. Tracy did a wonderful job of gesture, quiz master. We're waiting from Phil. Now my job is to give feedback on overall meeting and maybe the table topic master and some of the table topic speakers and also on the evaluators. I'm supposed to have 5 minutes. So I'll try to keep it again short and crisp. Table topic master did a wonderful job. He invited our guests first and also the 2 veteran speakers, Margot and Jackie. They both used word of the day, all 3 used, all on Zoom meeting, which was a great topic because we have so much to share for the new Zoom world. What I loved about David was he even encouraged jokes. Some of us may not be wearing pants. He's not sure what he's saying. That's the benefit of Zoom meeting, that you can be in any dress as long as it's above the chest. Evaluators, I think Larry did excellent. We always use the sandwich approach, and all of us are trained, very well trained, and more trained by listening to the good evaluators who make it. In fact, I think it's David Licata who says, evaluators makes great meetings. because great meetings are by the improvement we are seeking. Evaluation gives us that. Larry did excellent. Samir, again, probably his first time evaluation, but maybe second time, I'm not sure. But I think as a first timer, you did good. You all time 201, which was excellent. Because sometimes it takes practice, practice, practice. So, and evaluator 3, David, of course, is a professional broadcast, and he shows us the best way to be in the stage. Toastmaster of the day did an excellent job, although I started with my elephant, but then I realized she really had a more serious thought. So I took the elephant out of the Zoom meeting and started listening to her many quotes. And I think they were great. I mean, it's good to remind us many events which deeply cut our heart and our soul. Yes, when I came to this country, it was much different than it is today after 40 years. We have made so much progress, yet so much to still move forward. So you did a great job, Jen, of bringing some somberness to this meeting. Excellent job. Overall, I think it's a great meeting. Now, no evaluation can be complete without some improvement opportunities. My first one would be, did I miss the pledge? Just a thought, because I was waiting for my pledge and then I didn't get to pledge my allegiance, which is okay. Second one, I think, is a continuous improvement as I go to Toastmasters Club around the world. And it's, I think, only person who are responsible for it is our host and co-host. I shall not name them, but the question is, mute and unmute is a continuous improvement. And my joke is always, how do you go to Carnegie Hall? Practice, practice, practice. I think we're getting 10 times, if not 100 times better. I'm so happy that we have so little of these technical challenges, but you two are doing a great job. I really want to admire. As I keep telling, and I think David may agree with me, that this is one of the most authentic, enthusiastic, energetic, worth getting up for. Thank you so much. Back to you, Toastmaster of the Day.
Thank you. Well, with that, I will call on our guest, David, if he would like to say a few words. I know he's joined us several times, so I know maybe you aren't interested in joining our club just because we don't know what's happening with the virtual meetings and all, but we're glad to have you here.
Thank you. And your topics and subjects tonight kind of reminded me, and probably everybody, that public speaking is not just being funny or motivational. It's also serious subjects that sometimes we need to speak and have others hear. And thank you for addressing all those subjects for us. And thanks for having me again today.
Thank you, David. And our quiz master, we didn't forget about you.
Thank you, Madam Toastmaster. To get to the point, what does rain coalesce into when it's freezing out?
Snow.
Snow, ice.
For David, our guest, how has Toastmaster Zoom meetings helped him?
Be a better Toastmaster?
Be better better speaker, confidence.
Yep. All those things, right. For Margot, what does Margot and Kate do every Friday morning on Zoom?
Marketing meeting.
Marketing. For
Wine
Jackie.
trail meeting, yeah.
Drink wine.
And Jackie, where does her daughter, son-in-law, and grandchild live?
Cambridge, Miss Boston.
Yes, the People's Republic of Cambridge.
Great place.
For Marty, what was Marty's main concern at TOPS?
Customer.
Being polite to the customers.
Right.
Serving
And customers and face covering. Well, for Beth, what was Beth's memory that scared her the most?
Falling off the ladders.
Right.
Bridges.
You're right. Dr. Stevens, what did Dr. Stevens' wife say about him?
There's never any rest. Keeps going.
No.
He's a keeper. He's a keeper.
He's
a keeper. He's well trained.
Yes, like you, Phil, with all those sisters. Yeah.
Those are my questions, Madam Toastmaster.
Thank you, Phil. All right, I will turn our meeting over to, who wants to take it, Kate or Larry?
Well, I can jump in as immediate past president and then pass it back to Larry since it's almost 8:30. I put the slate of officers again into the chat bar for anyone who missed it the first time around. So that's the slate of officers for incoming 2020 to 2021. So we'll vote next week. So this is your 1 week notice for that. And then if you're interested, we've already got folks volunteering for next year too. So if you are interested in next year being an officer, please let Larry McKenzie know. He'll be your immediate past president and responsible for that. And with that, I will also remind you our social hour is tonight at 7 p.m. All are welcome. I will be there since Larry is unable to. He's been a better host than me every Thursday night, but we'll be on at 7 p.m. So the link is in the chat too because Larry's awesome, and we'll send it around in an email also. So Larry, back to you.
Thank you very much, Kate. Just a quick update on the message that with the slate of officers, the date is June 27th, next Saturday. If you show up on the Sunday, the 28th, you might be a little late.
Nobody will be there.
Yeah, nobody will be there. That's okay. But it is next Saturday at 9 a.m. and that is the officer training. So that members of our slate of officers, please be in contact with myself or with Kate or with whoever. Just let us know that you will be attending, and we'll make sure that we get the email to you and the link. First of all, great meeting today, Jen. Thank you very much. Toastmaster of the Day. How about a nice round of applause for our Toastmaster of the Day? Great theme, great meeting. Let's give away our ribbons. Oh, before I give away the ribbons, Toastmaster next week is Larry Eggert. Larry Eggert, you have been chosen, the chosen one for next week's meeting. So here's the challenge. Toastmasters that are on our meeting today, if you look at the agenda for next week, there are about 16 openings because I do believe that was not filled in with members to take roles. So please check out the roles, volunteer for a role to help Larry out, and then what we will do is we will fill the roles and help him out with that, making sure that all the roles are filled for next week. There are 2 speaker roles available, 3 evaluator roles, and then all of the other roles that are also on the agenda. So take a look at that. If you have not done so, please go in, log in to our AM Lockport site. All right, here we go. Ribbon winners for this week. Drum roll, please. Oh, that was the best I could do. Table topics, our winner today, David Jones, our guest. Congratulations, David. Table topics winner today. Our top evaluator and our Toastmaster for next week, Mr. Larry Eggert, top evaluator today. Congratulations, Larry. And best speaker of the day is, with her second speech, Beth Banks. Top speaker of the day. Congratulations to our 3 ribbon winners. And this meeting has coalesced into a great day and a good morning. This evening, we have social hour. I did put it in the chat. I will be on my way to Ohio at about 11 o'clock this morning. I will be social distancing while I attend a baseball tournament for my grandson. And if there are any announcements before we close the meeting, please let me know what those are right now, and we'll be happy to address those. Any announcements from any of our members? Okay. I want to thank our guests for joining us. Elvis has left the building. He had an 8 o'clock commitment. We want to thank him for joining us also from the David's Club from the Carolinas. And thank you for joining us. That is from the Queen City Toastmasters. And let me see if I have one last thing. Our slate of officers was posted for this week. We do have to vote on for next week, but we will be posting that also to the TM website so that they can get invitations out to our new incoming officers for that training. Without further ado, thank you. Great meeting. Meeting is now officially adjourned. We will be staying on for Post Toasties. If you wish to stay on, feel free to do so. But as of right now, the meeting will be adjourned for this